So when they ask you what is a diprotic acid, the main point you need to say is when 1 mole of acid, okay, when 1 mole of acid is ionized by water, or when 1 mole of acid ionizes in water, water must be there. When 1 mole of acid ionizes in water completely, if it ionizes completely, it will produce 2 moles of hydrogen ions. It produces 2 moles of hydrogen ions when it ionizes completely. Why must I have the word completely? Because acids like ethanoic acid, they are weak acids and they will not ionize completely. But when it comes to the concept of protic, whether is it monoprotic, diprotic, triprotic, you must allow that acid to undergo complete ionization to see how many moles of hydrogen ions it produces. So if ethanoic acid is allowed to undergo complete ionization, it will produce 1 mole of H plus. Therefore, ethanoic acid is a monoprotic acid. Now, on the other hand, same goes for phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is a weak acid. So it too will not undergo complete ionization. But if it is allowed to undergo complete ionization, 1 mole of phosphoric acid is capable of producing 3 moles of hydrogen ions. Therefore, phosphoric acid is known as a triprotic acid. So under the sulfuric acid, put there strong diprotic acid. So answer is A. Under the hydrochloric acid should be a strong monoprotic acid. Under phosphoric acid should be weak triprotic acid. Under ethanoic acid should be weak monoprotic acid. Okay, that's how you approach this is also known as basicity. Monoprotic, diprotic is also known as basicity of an acid. Basicity of an acid. That means the ability of an acid to ionize and produce hydrogen ions. Okay, all right. So remember, a rate of a reaction, okay, can be measured using the reactant or the product. It can be measured using the reactant or product. All we need is a measurable, observable physical quantity change. That means a physical quantity must undergo a change, which must be able to be observed and measured. If you can't measure it, then it cannot be used as a parameter for rates of reaction. So that is the idea you should capture. But you also must know that I can either use a product or I can either use a reactant. Further to it, you should know if you're using the reactant, the quantity of the reactant as time progresses, as the rate of reaction, as the reaction progresses, the quantity of reactant will decrease in time. All right. So it is the decrease in the quantity of reactant per unit time that gives you the rate of reaction. And to show it's a decrease in the quantity, normally we insert the negative sign. Now, if you're using the product is produced as the reaction progresses. Therefore, the quantity of product increases. Therefore, the rate of reaction will be the increase in the quantity of product per unit time. And that will be a positive answer. Okay, that are basically that. Now, sometimes in paper 3, they use the word operational definition. Operational definition is basically, all right, the definition that is operating in an experiment. So in that particular experiment you're carrying out, how are you measuring the rate of reaction? That is what you're supposed to state when they ask you for operational definition. So now remember, although rates of reaction can be measured using a reactant or a product, but the rate of reaction is only controlled by the reactants. Rate of reaction is never controlled by the product. It's only controlled by the reactants because it is the reactants that react to cause the reaction. Products are formed thereafter. Products are not there to influence or to start the rate of to start the reaction. Okay, so these are the facts you should understand. So based on that, okay, the answer for question number 8 would be C. Okay, which of the following is not a redox reaction? Now, a redox reaction is a reaction where electron transfer must occur. These are the features of redox reaction. Electron transfer must occur. So put that. Redox reaction is a reaction where electron transfer must occur. If electron transfer occurs, there must be a change in the oxidation state in the reactants. So the reactants will undergo a change in oxidation state. One of the reactant will undergo an increase in oxidation state. The other reactant will undergo decrease in the oxidation state. The one that undergoes increase in oxidation state is said to be oxidized. The one that decrease in the oxidation state, the one that undergoes a decrease in the oxidation state is said to have reduced. So you have an oxidation reaction, you have a reduction reaction occurring simultaneously, and that is what we call redox. But there are reactions which look almost like redox, but actually they are not. When you inspect the oxidation state of the reactants and the products, you will find the oxidation state of the reactants and products in the reactant state and in the product state, it remains constant. This indicates that electron transfer has not taken place. It's merely switching off the positive and the switching off between the cations and the anions. That means the cation of one reactant switches to the cation with another reactant. So between the two reactants, the cations switch places, and therefore they produce two different products. But this is just switching off of positions of the cations or the anions, but no electron transfer. Such a reaction, very common one, is the neutralization reaction, and another reaction is the double decomposition reaction. Therefore, the double decomposition reaction and the neutralization reaction, you'll find that electron transfer did not occur or does not occur, and therefore they are deemed as non-redox reactions. So based on that understanding, therefore for question number 9, okay? So if you are looking at the redox reaction, so you put all the oxidation states like that. So you can see the oxidation state of potassium ion did not change. This suggests that potassium ion is playing the role of a spectator ion. This is what you mean by spectator ion. Now you can see here very clearly the -1 charge on the bromine, okay, as the oxidation state of bromine on the reactant has increased to 0. Therefore, that's the oxidation process. That's the oxidation process. Okay, and then for chlorine, the oxidation state from 0 has decreased to -1. Therefore, that's the reduction process. So since both oxidation and reduction occur simultaneously, okay, therefore, we call this the redox reaction. All right, so that's your redox reaction. Okay, that's clear. Huh? So you can, and this is how you also explain if it comes out in your essay.